Hello and welcome to the Reinforced Running Show. My name is Rich Ryan. Today we have our interview with Cali Schweikhart, and in this episode we do a deep dive on the differences in training men and women. And this is a really valuable conversation for both athletes and coaches, and it's something that needs to be spoken about a little bit more openly and more freely. So that's exactly what we do. So in this conversation, we talk a lot about the nutritional differences and nutritional needs for men and women. And we do a deep dive on some of Cali's specific experiences with this, and it is tremendously valuable and it's fantastic. I really love this conversation, and it's really too important of a topic to ignore. So if you are an athlete yourself, or if you are a practitioner or you're helping athletes, this is something that needs to be put on your radar, and if it's not already, it needs to be, and if it is already, you need to learn more. And I specifically learned a ton from talking to her, so I'm very grateful to have her on the show and grateful to bring it to you. It's hard to take those steps when trying to eat more, because it is a guessing game at first, right? Like if you're just trying to listen to these signals and it's like, okay, maybe this lightheaded is because I'm hungry, or maybe it's because I'm getting sick or something, whatever it could be. So taking those steps to eat more can kind of be a barrier itself, right? And
Totally.
eating, and for me, my personal, I have a huge appetite. For me, it's never about not eating enough. It's just keeping it in under wraps, chilling out
I can
sometimes.
empathize.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but a lot of people aren't like that. It's a lot of times it's hard for people to eat more, either if it's appetite or if it's schedule, like how you just kind of laid out, where it's I'm just running around. I don't have time to prep food. I have kids. Now they're at home, I'm working from home, and I don't have time to prep enough food for me to eat. And then there's a matter of the mindset of trusting that it is going to be helpful. Because if they eat more and it doesn't work in the way that we're talking about it working, it's this tough spot to be in. So how would you encourage someone to eat more?
So I have two answers to this question, kind of based on the two scenarios you laid out. The one where someone is just super busy and kind of has trouble making the time to eat more. The simple answer there is to prioritize more calorically dense foods. So, and there are a lot of really yummy calorically dense foods, so that shouldn't be too bad. So if you're someone who typically eats peanut butter on toast for breakfast, just load it with a little more peanut butter, maybe have another slice of toast. That can add a significant amount of calories in very little time and with very little effort. And then packing calorically dense snacks, you're probably going to be eating more fat if that's the case, because fat is the most calorically dense macronutrient. But perfect bars come to mind. So they're a pretty small bar that pack I think 350 calories. They're delicious. They're like a bar of peanut butter pretty much. Something like that is so easy. If you grab it from the store and then put it in your bag and you're going on with your day, you can eat that pretty quick, as opposed to an apple is less than a third of the calories and it takes longer to eat. And it actually might make you fuller depending on how you react to the fiber in that. So yeah. So just really prioritizing those calorically dense foods. And maybe it's not a matter of adding more eating time throughout the day. It's a matter of just upping your portions when you do eat, which can be easier for some people, as opposed to planning for more snack times. Just eat more when you do eat and try that out. Then in the scenario where you said trusting that eating more is going to be useful, I found myself in kind of that scenario for a while. And basically it was when I was trying to normalize my hormones and get healthier. It was a lot of trying to believe that eating more would help me regulate things. And that didn't happen for a few years. It took a long time to numerically and scientifically speaking, I was eating more than enough to be getting a healthy cycle and fuel my training. But because of the deficit I had put my body in and just the stress I had put it under, it took a really long time and a pretty significant amount of weight gain to fix everything. And that's really hard to be patient through, because I would be like gaining weight from eating more and still things weren't getting back on track. And all science points to the idea that yes, they will, but it's a matter of when. So I would just say for anyone who's like trying to figure out if it's going to be beneficial for them, first of all, if you're a female and you're not getting your cycle, it probably will be beneficial for you. So it's a matter of just putting in those extra calories and maybe dialing back training a bit, or tailoring it to like your specific season, just being more cognizant of like how you're expending energy. And then just seeing kind of what your body does with it. But yeah, it's really about patience a lot of the time, to be honest, which is tough.
Yeah. Wow. That's tough. I like just laying out that example that you gave. That must've been really hard. That must've been really hard to kind of
Yeah,
go through that. How did
it,
you go ahead? I was going to ask how are you able, because I'm thinking of myself and like a younger me, and I don't have the exact same, whatever. If I was faced with something, a specific example like that, it's like, if you need to eat more, but you might gain weight, and there's this healing time that you need, but long term it's going to be helpful, but in the short term it might be frustrating and probably make you angry. I would probably say, no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to stay right here, and I'm going to be this weight, and this is and that's that. And I could imagine as things were changing and not necessarily like healing in the way that at the speed that you were hoping, like, had been really frustrating. Like, how did you keep that in mind?
Definitely. So it was an interesting time for sure. So I did what you said for a long time. I kind of was like in denial and was like, you know what, it's fine. My doctor says it's fine. I will just like go on with being hungry all day, but being the weight I quote unquote want to be. And I'll be okay, and it'll just fix itself when I don't compete anymore, which who knows when. But after a while there was, I think there were more and more athletes that I looked up to or just followed on social media, who came out on the topic, and just more content was being put out there. And it kind of just opened my eyes to the fact that I was doing like long-term damage to my body. So fortunately for me, like when I would go for checkups, they checked bone density. I think the last time I was in like high end of normal. So like that wasn't like a red flag for me, but for a lot of people who have that issue, bone density is going to be one of the first things to suffer. And obviously that's not ideal, because when you're an athlete, you take a lot of impact in almost anything you do. So you want your bones to be strong and you don't want to get injured. So, but I kind of just owned up to the fact that like I wasn't going to be my best self performance wise if I wasn't like having healthy hormones and like having a healthy relationship with food and like feeling good throughout the day. Because if you're not feeling good throughout the day, how could you be feeling your best in training? So eventually I just got kind of tired of feeling like something was wrong with me, which it kind of was. And kind of just gave in, hoping that performance wise, there was something better on the other side. So the process of like really giving into that was probably like, I think it was about a year and a half. And it kind of happened right before I kind of started like really investing in fixing things right before COVID. And COVID kind of hit at an opportune time for me. And obviously it's a terrible thing. It's a horrible pandemic. I'm not saying
Disclaimer,
that I'm
we get it.
grateful. Yeah. Okay. But in terms of like timing for me, it really allowed me to take that break from racing that I think I needed, because otherwise it would have been so psychologically hard to gain. I gained quite a bit of weight. Like I have a large frame. I'm 5'11". So like it'll fluctuate, but like upwards of 30 pounds, like that's a lot. Especially coming from someone who was like so just hyper focused on a certain weight that I wanted to be for so many years. Now to add to the level of complexity here, there's an idea of like an overshoot weight where any like female athlete who's looking to get their period back, they might have to like gain more than what their body would level out at, just because they've been in that low like deficit state for so long. So to kind of like give your body the insurance that it needs to like start things back up again, you'll have to go higher. So for me, it was like a pretty big swing. And then that was like very, very difficult. Definitely, it helped that there was no racing, because otherwise I probably would have been extremely insecure and not feeling good about myself, which, I mean, that's just a mental part of it that I'm still working on. But yeah, it was a lot about just like, okay, give my body the chance that it needs to set things back on track and then go from there. And it was just, I kind of just had to bite the bullet and do it. And it was hard. And then fortunately, I didn't have to back off training too much. There are people who really need to lay off the intensity, lay off the volume. But I think the fact that I have a large appetite, I was able to just up what I ate a lot more, and I like handled that well. So I could still sustain training. And then eventually, just after that long period of time and like a lot of weight gain, it did come back. And after that, it was like, okay, well, now we have to be patient again, because you don't want to just like screw everything up and go back in the other direction. So let it level out. At this time, I was really just focusing on eating whenever I was hungry, eating like whatever I wanted. And I mean, like ice cream every night, like things like that, just to like get in the calories and like give my body a break from stressing over food. And then when my cycle seemed to be consistent again, was when I started working with my dietitian on tailoring things a little bit more towards performance and feeling good again. Because at this point, yes, I felt good about the fact that like hormonally I was functioning better, but performance wise, like I wasn't feeling my best self. I wasn't really, my focus wasn't on like all the nutrients, all the clean food. It was just like all the calories, and just do that for a while. So now the focus has shifted a little bit to tailoring nutrition a little bit more towards what is going to make me feel my best while also giving me adequate fuel. And by feel my best, I mean like in my training. So yes, ice cream can make you feel good, but like I've noticed for me, like that's like one of my favorite foods. But if I do eat it every day, like I did, I do tend to feel kind of sluggish. And the sugar might not be as beneficial for me as something like Greek yogurt with protein at night, like something like that. So making those shifts over time and tailoring nutrition to performance again after kind of resetting things by just like letting all hell break loose pretty much, and just like kind of just start back from ground zero. So that was an interesting process for sure.
Yeah. It's like you said, bite the bullet. Like you really did have to take a leap.
Yeah.
And doing it, like you said, like having COVID there and having no races, that's nice. But like one thing that I've been thinking about and talking about a lot with COVID is like, it gave me a better scope of time, right? And how time passes and races pass and things, and like not that much changes, right? And things will kind of progress along the way. So like it's going to be okay to miss things and have things and take time to like allow the change that needs to happen. But if you were to give someone that was maybe in your place years ago, kind of that nudge or advice to take this leap, this kind of scary leap, how would you help coax somebody to do that? Because like you mentioned, like a lot of people speaking out about it, sure, like, but it's still a decision you got to kind of make on your own. But like, how could you get somebody there, you think?
That's a good question. And I thought about that a lot. And I don't think my answer would have been honest until very recently, because I was always holding on to the hope that performance-wise, I could feel better than I did at a much lighter weight, like no functioning hormones, anything like that, versus at a higher weight, but like feeling healthy and like just body-wise, everything was going well. So there was a point in time where like I had gotten my cycle back, but like things still weren't clicking. Like I wasn't feeling good. And I was like, great, did I just do all this work to like not like perform better than I did? But once I kind of got the training part of it nailed down, from like an intensity standpoint, a like just what's too much, what's too little, that kind of thing, and gave my body a good chunk of time to like adjust to everything, with prioritizing the proper nutrition. It does have me feeling stronger than I have before. Like, so just numerically, to give you an example, it's just eye-opening to me that a few years ago, I was probably a good like 15 to 20 pounds lighter, not getting a cycle. And I train by heart rate. So I would run at like 160 beats per minute. I have a high heart rate. So 160 beats per minute as like a cap on like easier or more endurance runs. And my pace then is slower than it is now at that heart rate with 15 to 20 pounds on me at altitude. I was at sea level before. I'm at 5,000 to 8,000 feet now. So it's kind of coming together in terms of letting the nutrition kind of heal the body from the inside, let things take its course, and then nail down the proper training and not just like slam your body into the ground with all this high intensity stuff. So I would just tell someone that it really is patience and really making sure you nail all the components, not just like kind of hoping things will work out, like actively seeking what makes the most sense and like fitting all those pieces of the puzzle together.
And the anecdote of just like weighing more and running faster, I think it speaks volumes to athletes. Like, listen, I know you think you need to look this way or be this specific weight. I did too, but like, feel better now and running faster. So like, whatever. Because if it's just about like I said before, if it's just about the healing or pushing back the consequences, people will probably ignore that. But that proof, and that's awesome. So I'm relieved to hear that for you. That's great. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to get that full conversation that I had with Cali, make sure to drop on to the podcast. Links right down below in the comment section here. And of course, if you like what we're doing here, give us a subscribe, hit us with a thumbs up, share with your friends if you could think that they would benefit from this, because this conversation is too important to just have held here and to yourself. So